All right, welcome to the conversation. It's an anniversary today. You know what it is? 10th year anniversary of Wolf-PAC. All right, so Wolf-PAC was founded to get corrupting influence of big money out of politics. I know that because I founded it, and it has done some spectacular things, which we're going to talk about in a minute. It's also had its share of challenges, but in order to talk about it, we brought on the backbone of Wolf-PAC, and that is amazing volunteers at the different state levels. So today joining us, Aaron Blackford for Indiana State Director for Wolf-PAC, and Aaron Bishop, the Washington Deputy Organizing Director. Aaron's, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right, great to have you. All right, so guys, it's not an easy mission because it's nonpartisan. So you got to get Democrats and Republicans to agree. Otherwise, we can't get an amendment because you need 3/4 of the states. So not you guys in specific, but 10 years ago, we started this at Occupy Wall Street, and I gave you guys a very difficult mission. So now let's check back in on how it's going. Let's go to Aaron from Indiana first. Give us a sense of how it's going in your state.
Well, it's going kind of slow. So we have been introduced a couple of different times, and we've had a lot of support on the Republican side. And it just seems to be one of those things where they're not really ready to bite the bullet and get in there and show that like we really are going to take a stance. Every time that we put in for an Article 5 convention, they pull the Article 5 call and they just say, yeah, Congress should do something about this, but we all know how that's going. So we have some really dedicated volunteers and they are doing all of the important stuff that needs to be done. We just seem to need more boots on the ground, and we need to fill in some more districts with volunteer representation.
Okay, so I want to come back to what you said there about an Article 5 convention, because I'm sure a lot of folks at home don't know what that means. But before we get there, I want you guys to understand both the progress and the challenges. And in Washington, we had a lot of amazing progress. It was actually one of our best moments in some ways. I'm going to come back to that in a second as well. But first, let me tell you guys what Wolf-PAC has done in the last 10 years. It's actually passed in 5 different states, calling for a convention to actually get free and fair elections. And that's how you can realistically get an amendment. We'll explain that in a second. But it's already passed in 5 states, including the largest state in the country, California. 40 states have had legislation introduced. That's a lot of states where these are all of the folks that you see are almost all volunteers. There's a couple of staffers that say this is a very unusual organization. It's totally grassroots. It's not led by politicians at all, okay? And that's why we've got the 2 wonderful volunteers today. And they're everywhere, but more. 21 legislative chambers have had legislation actually pass, introduced in 40, passed in different chambers in 21. And if you're wondering, only 5 states, 21 legislatures, that's because sometimes the House will pass it and the Senate won't. Sometimes the Senate will pass it and the House won't. In fact, then they'll switch, we'll get into that. But also, as Aaron mentioned, there's 7 Republican-controlled committees have passed it, and 3 Republican-controlled legislative chambers have passed it as well. So that means it is truly nonpartisan. There are Republicans that are in favor of cleaning up elections. That shouldn't be surprising to Republicans. And there are Democrats who are in favor of it and have been for a long time. So with that background, Aaron, still from Indiana, you mentioned Article 5 convention. Can you explain to folks, if we're looking to get money out of politics or do free and fair elections, election reform in any way to clean up campaign finance and other issues that are related to elections, why do you need to go to a convention and what does an Article 5 convention mean?
So an Article 5 convention essentially just means that the states together can come together and they can propose an amendment to the Constitution with the same amount of power that Congress has. And it's important to do so right now because there have been some very detrimental Supreme Court decisions that have come down that have affected the campaign finance system in a negative way. And the only way to trump the Supreme Court in the United States is through an amendment to the Constitution. Congress isn't willing to cut their own paychecks, so we have to cut that corruption out ourselves through the states.
Yes, so you don't need Washington at all. That's a beautiful thing about this. And we know Washington's not gonna do it. You get 2/3 of Congress is gonna say, oh yeah, get rid of the thing that funds all of our campaigns and is the source of our power. That's not gonna happen unless you put a world of pressure through the states or simply do the convention. You could propose an amendment without Washington. Okay, and that's what, and it's Article 5 in the Constitution. That's why it's called an Article 5 convention. Okay, Aaron from Washington. So I remember going down to Washington, and so tell us, like, it's a long story what happened in Washington. It's got ups and downs, but I think it's really instructive for both the opportunities and the challenges. So tell us what happened there from the beginning.
So yeah, we've gotten really close in Washington State. In fact, we had one of the best showings of volunteers actually showing up to the Capitol in 2019, as you know, Cenk, because you were there. We had over 400 people show up. The legislators were like floored how many people we had actually been able to amass to our Capitol. But one of the biggest problems that we've had this past legislative year is the fact that when they went virtual, it meant that everybody was able to actually show up to the Capitol because they could do it from their home. And so you had tons of people, and I'm not just talking about like dozens of people, I'm talking about thousands of people show up to testify, to tax the rich, to help try to get Black Lives Matter movement progress through and things of that nature. And so like Washington State has been really crucial, and we've had like 400 people. We had 400 people actually show up to our last committee hearing, but those numbers aren't moving anymore. We need more and more volunteers to actually get involved. We need as many people as we can get to show up when they can.
So the way you guys can do that is wolf-pack.com/go. And so that's where you can volunteer, you can donate, you can do either. You could just look at it and do neither, but at least take a look at it and see if you like it. The community at Wolf-PAC is so amazing. The camaraderie there probably is alone is worth it. But think about it, guys. Something that gets almost no media attention, obviously outside of this show, somehow miraculously did what almost no group can do. I mean, most groups cannot get 400 people to show up to a national event in Washington, as in Washington, D.C. Aaron's group got 400 people to show up in the state of Washington at their state house. I've never seen volunteers like Wolf-PAC volunteers because, and I'm not saying this to be schmaltzy, it really is true. They're the most patriotic people I've ever seen. And they're hopeful, they're optimistic, and they've done amazing things together. And you could join them and you could make a giant difference. So now in terms of how to do that, Aaron from Washington, I'll stick with you on this one too. There's lots of different ways of volunteering, right? Now it's a big organization, almost all volunteers. So there's the communications team that's wonderful. What are the different things that folks can do at Wolf-PAC?
So one of the things they can do is just volunteer to just send emails, just call. This is like the basic of Wolf-PAC volunteering. You can get in more deeper into organizing, where you actually reach out to fellow people at Wolf-PAC to let them know, hey, we've got a committee hearing coming up. We need you to show up. We need you to testify. What's great right now is because virtually we're able to actually like submit what we want to say without actually stepping foot in the Capitol. So in 2021, or 2022 actually, because it's going to be in January. We're actually doing like a hybrid model here in Washington State, where they're going to have it in session and they're gonna go in, and then they're also going to allow people to do things virtually. So I would definitely check in with your state and see what they're doing, but it's so easy to get involved these days, and we need everybody as possible. Myself, I'm a deputy organizing director, so I'm actually helping the organizers figure out what we're doing, whether we're reaching out to our legislators that week, whether we're building a coalition with some other group. I really personally want to like get involved in the Poor People's Campaign myself and get that kind of coalition built there. There's so much you can do these days.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I just right before the interview tweeted about the Poor People's Campaign. So apparently we're like-minded, and we're certainly like-minded in wanting to get corruption out. We just did a show on Monday where literally half the stories were about corruption. Take money from drug companies, serve drug companies. Take money from energy companies, serve energy companies. This is so obvious. And Wolf-PAC is just about the only organization that's actually trying to do something about it. Like trying super hard for something tangible, not like, oh, maybe we'll change the Supreme Court in 30 or 40 years from now. No, you just get the states to call for a convention. We have one, we propose an amendment, and then we see if we can get it passed. You still need 3/4 of the states, but at least you've got a fighter's chance. So wolf-pac.com/go, find out more about it. There's a workshop coming up on December 4th. Those are amazing. Last year, Anna joined us, Crystal Ball joined us, Tommy Chong joined us, the inventor of Pictionary joined us. And those are fun and they're informational and they help show you the way that you can actually make a difference. So last thing, Aaron from Indiana, let me go back to you. So I know how much our volunteers make a difference. I've seen it 1,000 times in Illinois. I remember one of our staffers was in a room with a congressional aide at the Illinois level, and other Wolf-PAC volunteers were calling in, and she's trying to juggle it. And she's like, where did this mountain army come from? So she literally used that term, and I love it. But I'm curious, why did you get involved?
I had so many issues with so many things. The number one thing though that I saw, I was trained in the military, served in the military, and then came home, and military weapons are all around me with none of the regulations that we had in the military. And with something that had such support as like 93% for comprehensive gun legislation. And then started talking to some other friends that work in other fields that have children in different situations. And then listening to this guy named Jank on the internet rail about how it's about the money, it's got to be about the money. And we did look in, we looked at it, and every single one of the issues was about the money. So we have to fix this one, and then we can have actual conversations about each and every single one of those things. But this one has to be solved first.
Yeah, no, I love you guys, and eventually this mountain army is going to change the country. And so, guys, you're looking at two of the founding mothers of this country when we get our democracy back. So thank you, we appreciate it, and keep on going. Everybody, wolf-pac.com/go. We'll have the link down below. Make sure you go and check it out. Thank you, Aaron and Aaron. Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.